when you pick up a sleeping baby or a sleeping child, they seem so heavy. Did Susan say it? Yep, Susan said it, yeah. Well, you know, in terms of mechanics, their mass has not changed. They still have the same amount of atoms in them. So from a technical point of view, they're no heavier than they were before. What they are, though, is they're far more malleable. They change shape. You pick them up here and suddenly the shape shifts and they're over somewhere else. So your ability to predict where they're going to be is constantly changing, which means you're constantly having to adjust, and your experience then is that they feel heavier. And that's an interesting phenomena. And our use of language to describe that is kind of sloppy from a mechanics point of view, but totally true from your experiential point of view, because they do feel heavier. But from a physics point of view, they are not. So sometimes what we experience is different from what physics tells us is the case, or science tells us is the case. Please lie on your back. And the next time that you go to breathe out, could you breathe out in such a way that you hollow out your abdomen? All in one go, just let out the air, and as you let out the air, hollow out the abdomen, draw in the abdomen, draw it in, and then let yourself breathe again for a little while, and then repeat that process. Yep. So as you breathe out by hollowing out your abdomen. And always give yourself a little bit of a rest between, so it's not just this constant thing all the time. But that is what you're exploring. Breathing out, coordinating that with the hollowing out of your abdomen. Hollowing, drawing in, pulling in, emptying out, like a bowl. Oops. Yeah, that's it. No. Breathing, yeah. Breathing out, hollowing out your abdomen. So exhaling, hollowing out your abdomen. Yeah, that's it. Okay, now bend your legs, stand your feet, and do the same thing, and notice what's different when your legs are bent. For those of you who already had your legs bent, lengthen them out and sense what's different just by changing the leg position. So it's always on the exhale. You exhale, you send air out, and as you do that, you hollow out the abdomen. You hollow it, you hollow it, you hollow it, you hollow it, as if you wanted to draw your abdomen underneath your ribs. And now could you all please bend your legs, stand your feet, and continue. And pay attention. Are you able to hollow out the abdomen as well on the right-hand side as you are on the left-hand side? Or is there a difference? As you hollow out your abdomen, your navel falls in the direction of your spine. And in your lower abdomen, where your two hip bones are at the front, the abdomen falls downwards in the direction of the back of the pelvis. And in the upper abdomen, the abdominal wall falls backwards as if it wants to tuck underneath the ribs. Do you sense that more clearly on one side than the other? Let that be. Stop for a moment. So in this lesson, we're going to be exploring one particular coordination of breathing out. And there's lots of different coordinations to breathing out, but in this lesson, it's incessantly the same one, again and again and again. Roll onto your front. Have the palms of your hands on the floor somewhere near the top of your head, unless that's not easy for you, and then place your hands in a place that's acceptable. And do the same thing. As you go to breathe out by drawing in your abdomen, hollowing out your abdomen. And you might find that in this position, it's different to do. There's a different experience associated with drawing in your abdomen. As you breathe out and you hollow out your abdomen, notice, does the right-hand side of your abdomen move away from the floor in the same way that the left-hand side does? Or is there a difference? Put your left hand into a push-ups position. Lengthen out your right arm. Turn your head so that your face is directed to the left. And roll yourself a little bit more onto your right-hand side so that you're more predominantly lying on the right-hand side of your abdomen, the right-hand side of your chest, the right shoulder, the right hip. And now continue doing what you were doing a moment ago. Every time you breathe out, draw in the abdomen. And put a special emphasis on drawing in the left-hand side of the abdomen. So a little bit more powerfully contract the left-hand side abdominal muscles, the left-hand side abdominal wall. Now switch positions. Make the mirror image. And continue exploring the same intention, drawing in the abdomen every time you exhale. And finding a way to more powerfully contract the abdominal wall on the right-hand side. Return now to lying completely on your front with the two hands on the floor somewhere above your head. And when you breathe out, when you exhale, draw in your abdomen and hollow it out. Notice whether the experience is different now compared to before. Do both sides of the abdominal wall work a little bit more similarly? Let that be and rest in any position you'd like. When you hollow out, when you draw in your abdomen like you've been doing, you have a couple of decisions to make about what you do with your chest and your ribs. And there's a few possibilities there, and they haven't been specified. So at the moment, you're free to do what you think works well for you. Lie on your back. Bend your legs, stand your feet. Interlace your fingers and put your hands behind your head. Lift your head from the floor and then put it back down. Do that several times. Notice what's happening in your abdomen as you do that. Now, there are lots of layers of muscles in the abdominal wall. I think there's about 4 layers altogether. Is it necessary to use all the layers of muscles to lift your head? Let's find out. Lift your head as high as possible. And you'll find that your abdominal muscles contract quite powerfully. And from there, as you go to breathe out, could you draw in your abdomen and notice what happens with your head? Does it lower a little bit? Repeat that process several times. And before you get tired, please do let yourself lower the head to the floor, rest a little bit, and then return to the activity. So when your head is lifted high and the abdominal muscles are contracting powerfully, is it possible to differentiate the muscle contraction so that some of the muscle wall can actually hollow backwards while other parts of the muscle wall remain contracted and your head is lifted. Now, neurologically, this is possible. Anatomically, those layers are joined together with sheets of connective tissue and so on. But have this as an idea that this might be possible for some of the abdominal wall to just hollow backwards while the rest of the abdomen remains contracting and lifting your head, even though your head goes backwards a little bit. That's enough. Stop, rest. This business of stopping between variations is a curious one. How do you invite people to do that? I was just reflecting on my use of this silly little term, that's enough. Well, really, who am I to say that that's enough? You might want to continue. So is that a good way of introducing a break? Does it need to be said? Why not just say, please stop? Why not just say, pause for a little while? Why even say, let that be? Go on to your front, please. Lie on your front. And from here, separate yourself away from the floor until you're standing on your knees and on your hands. And finally, place the very, very top of your head on the floor. If that means you need to adjust the distance between your hands and your knees to your hands, do that. The way your head is resting on the floor is important here. Don't let the weight of your trunk fall into the floor via the top of your hands. Support your weight more through your arms than you do through the top of your head. And now in this position, please go ahead. As you exhale, draw in your abdomen, hollow it out. Hollow it out as much as you can without squeezing the muscles of your throat. And then breathe a little bit. And then the next time you go to exhale, same thing. Compared to the other positions that you've done this in, what's different? Is drawing in your abdomen easier here? Is it more difficult? Is it a clearer sensation or is it a more fuzzy sensation? Is it even a possibility for some of you in this position? Maybe even the idea of drawing your abdomen here seems impossible. For others, it's like, oh, totally possible, totally get it, know how to do it. And when you draw in your abdomen, does your weight shift in any way over your 5 points of support? The head, the 2 hands, and the 2 knees. Stop, rest. Lie on your back. Bend your legs, stand your feet. Place the backs of your hands on the floor above your head. The backs of your hands on the floor above your head. Lift your pelvis up into the air, forward, and put it down again. Do that a few times and find out how high can you lift your pelvis easily without any strain. And when you find that height, leave your pelvis there. Notice what part of your upper body are you leaning on? Is it the back of your chest and your shoulders? Is it just simply the shoulders? Is it your neck? And begin to exhale. And as you exhale, hollow out the abdomen. Hollow it out in such a way that you're imagining your abdominal wall going underneath the lower ribs. Notice what that experience is when you are in this position. Does this position assist you to exhale? Lower your pelvis to the floor and pause for a little bit, just a little bit. Bend your legs, stand your feet. Have only your right arm, your right hand on the floor above your head, the left arm somewhere down beside your torso. And lengthen out your left leg. And now lift the right hand side of the pelvis away from the floor. Move the right hand side of the pelvis forward. Your pelvis will roll to the left. And return. Find out how far can you take the right-hand side of your pelvis forward and still keep your knee pointing to the ceiling. So that's the constraint. The knee stays pointing to the ceiling. The right leg remains a standing leg. And the next time you have your pelvis forward as far as is acceptable to you, stop there. And once again, as you exhale, hollow out your abdomen. And you can inhale any way you like. So the top of the abdomen comes closer and closer to the ribs at the back. The bottom of the abdomen comes closer and closer to the hip bones at the back. And the middle of the abdomen gets closer and closer to the spine. So basically, your whole abdominal area becomes like this big hammock hanging towards the back of yourself. Switch positions, do the mirror image of this position, and then continue. And there'll be a moment when you cannot exhale any longer. You've sent so much air out of yourself, and you haven't breathed in for such a long time that some part of your system tells you, I need to take a breath in. And then you do. Listen to that. Pay attention to that. Look for that moment when breathing out needs to turn into breathing in. It's very, very deeply physiological. And now stop, pause for a bit. Now, you know, for the ATM practicum, I really wanted to give you both the notes, the transcript, and the recording. And some of you have probably found out that there's a difference, an experience difference working from one or the other. You know, the transcript gives you no sense of timing. How long is the pause? How long do you do a set of variations for? There's no sense of that. Whereas in the recording, that's absolutely present. It goes with the sense of the lesson. And in different kinds of transcripts, people doing the transcript have tried to get the sense of the timing across by adding dots at the end of the sentence or saying long pause, short pause. But it's never quite the same as experiencing a lesson live or the lesson recorded. please come up so that you're bearing weight over your hands and your knees. The elbows are straight. Let the head hang towards the floor. The elbows are straight. And in this position, do what you've been doing. As you exhale and you draw in that abdomen, notice which part of your back gets closer to the ceiling. Is it the part of your back closest to your hips? Is it the part of your back closest to your neck? Is it the part of your back that's below your shoulder blades? The middle of your back? Between the shoulder blades? Where in yourself do you detect getting closer to the ceiling as you hollow out the abdomen on the exhale? Pay careful attention. Change the positioning of your limbs. With the right leg, take the foot forward and stand the sole of the right foot on the floor. And with the left arm, put the left elbow and forearm on the floor. The left forearm and elbow on the floor. So you're standing on the sole of the right foot. You're still kneeling on the left knee. The left elbow is on the floor. That's it. And now go ahead and do what you've been doing throughout this lesson. In this position, which part of your back gets closest to the ceiling? And switch the position over to the mirror image. And make the same inquiry. As you hollow out the abdomen, which part of the back surface of yourself, between the hips and the tops of the shoulders, which part gets closest to the ceiling? Let that be. Rest. Find your way to standing. Stand so that you feel well balanced. Let your head hang forward. Interlace your fingers and put your hands resting on the back of your head. And you gauge how much weight you want the arms to give over to the head. Enough so that you feel the weight, but not so much that you feel that it's a strain on your neck. You don't want your neck to be strained. In this position, notice how the top of yourself, the shoulders and the upper chest tend to get rounded. Stay rounded like this with your head hanging forward and do what you've been doing. As you exhale, hollow out the abdomen. Let the shoulders round, so that the whole shoulder girdle can come forward. The neck can round, the upper thorax can round. The rest of you stays upright. And what's it like to draw in your abdomen here compared to all the other positions? When you draw in your abdomen here, does your head tend to drop a little closer to the floor? Does it tend to rise away from the floor? What happens? Stop. Walk around a little bit. Feel what it's like to walk. We have one more variation before finishing. Take a few more steps and then stop. Stand with your feet a little wider apart than usual. Bend your legs and then place the palms of your hands on the tops of your knees, somewhere on the thigh, so that you can lean onto the knees through your arms. And in this position, go ahead, breathe out, draw in the abdomen, and as you draw in the abdomen, ever so slightly bend the knees a little bit so that your pelvis moves in the direction of the floor. And then when you inhale, return. So you exhale, 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 you draw in the abdomen, the whole abdominal wall becomes hollow, the knees bend, you lower the pelvis. The intention is not to lower the pelvis to the floor. That's not the intent. It just lowers a little bit in that direction. Notice what happens to your ability to draw in your abdomen in this position. When you're no longer completely vertical and your trunk is no longer completely horizontal, but you're kind of somewhere in between. Why is it that athletes at the end of a race will get into this position to breathe? Because this is what you see. They've just gone over the finish line. They stop and they go forward. They rest their hands on their knees, and there they are, getting the air that they need. Okay, let that be. Come up to standing and just simply breathe. Just simply breathe. The habits of language. So we're going to go off to lunch now. And after lunch, we'll come back into small groups and we'll discuss two different questions. Notice in that lesson, I did not offer a scan. No scan was offered. Based on your experience of the lesson, what scan would you offer so that it fits the lesson? Alternatively, the lesson had a fairly simple structure, yes? Same thing over and over again, different positions. Knowing that, based on the design of lesson, what kind of scan would you offer? So based on your experience or based on your sense of the design of the lesson, you'll talk about that. And I'll put this up on the board. And then the second part, once that's over, we'll look at a little bit of the design of the lesson from three different factors. From the perspective of the body positions that were used, from the perspective from your relationship of the body to the field of gravity. And there's a third perspective that's totally gone out of my mind and I can't remember it, but there will be a third one. Okay, so I'll put that up on the board during lunchtime, and when we come back, we'll do that.